Alright, so last week I made a video where I covered 50 of my general video game related hot takes, but this week I'm doing that again, but specifically focusing on Pokemon stuff. And this time I actually came up with more than 50, and by more than 50 I mean like 54. I was gonna keep going, but I just couldn't really think of anything else. Of course, I'll probably think of like a million other things as soon as I upload this, but oh well. We've got 54 things to cover. So let's get right into it, and if you somehow don't know, the whole point of this is that hot takes are unpopular opinions, things that I personally think that might get people upset because they disagree and it's an unpopular opinion, that kind of stuff. But I'm doing it for fun, so don't get mad if you disagree. Anyway, number 1, I honestly think it's better when they give less popular Pokemon representation in the TCG, instead of just like the same 5 things over and over again. Like they usually just milk Pikachu, Charizard, Rayquaza, Umbreon, Mewtwo, Gengar, those guys, the usual suspects. But I like it when they give less popular things support. Like in the new set that's coming out, one of the front men of the set is literally Galvantula. Galvantula's awesome, but no one talks about him, so that's nice. Number 2, and this is kind of my Peter Griffin, I never cared for the Godfather thing. I never personally cared for Heart Gold Soul Silver. It's probably the most hyped up game in the series, and I played through it, and it was honestly the game I somehow enjoyed the least of any Pokemon game. Not that I didn't like it, it's just that I liked it the least. But yeah, I don't really get the hype for it. 3. Pokemon Legends Arceus took a good direction for the series. It's arguably the best game in the series. I mean, I literally think it is. And not every game needs to have the same exact layout every time, so I like what Arceus was doing being different, so it's cool that we're going to get Legends ZA, which will hopefully do something new as well. 4. It's annoying when a game tries to force you to use Pokemon new to its region right from the start. Especially in Sword and Shield, I remember at the beginning they just like throw a Rookity, a Nickit, a Squovit, a Yamper at you, and you're just kind of like, you just have to go with it. Like, I don't want to use the new stuff. What if I want to have a unique team? And that's another thing. I feel like it's kind of impossible to have unique teams in a lot of the games. You just end up getting shoveled in the same filler every single time. Number 5, character customization peaked in Sword and Shield and sucks in Scarlet and Violet. It should totally be improved in later games. 6, Espeon is better than Umbreon. And I'm not talking from like a competitive standpoint, maybe it is, I don't know, but I just personally like it more, and I feel like most people like Umbreon more. 7, Charizard is not even close to the coolest starter out there. Maybe it's Mega X form, but its regular form is not. Like literally any Gen 4 or 3 starter is better than Charizard, among many others that are also better. The Gen 1 starters are really just basic designs compared to the later ones. 8, Sword and Shield has a great soundtrack, and honestly wasn't that bad as people make it up to be. I mean, yeah, they kind of lied about how much effort they were going to put into it, and the graphics were and the story was but it had a lot to make up for it. Like I said, the soundtrack, and I honestly think there's a lot of good character designs and Pokemon designs from that region that people just kind of sleep on. 9, villain bases and just Victory Road in general are honestly really obnoxious and boring, especially villain bases where it's literally just going through a labyrinth fighting the same grunt a million times in a row. 10, Meganium is the best Johto starter, at least my favorite, and everyone hates Meganium, like it's probably the most hated starter for some reason, but I mean, it's a dinosaur, that's epic. 11, Raichu is cooler than Pikachu. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if Raichu was the mascot instead of Pikachu. 12, it's better when the games are easier, because honestly, grinding and doing the same battles over and over can just get obnoxious and boring. Essentially what I'm saying is I prefer EXP share to exist. 13, some of the megas that less popular Pokemon got are honestly really cool, like Medicham, Mawile, and Audino. 14, most Paldean Pokemon are really dumb or just underwhelming designs. 15, Most evolution methods are honestly kind of annoying, like trade evolutions where they just assume you have a friend that also has the game and the system to play the game on. Like, not everyone has that. Or just some item evolutions where the item is just like gate kept from you for a while or till like post game or something stupid. 16. A lot of popular Gen 1 Pokemon are genuinely ugly in my opinion, like Hitmonchan, Machop, Fearow, Chansey, Snorlax, and a few others that I could probably name but I'm not going to. 17. Stuff about spin-offs like Cafe Mix, Go, and Unite is just time-wasting filler that no one cares about in Pokemon Presents and Directs. I feel like the past few they've done, it was so hyped, it was like, yeah, they're gonna announce like Black and White remakes or something. It's like, oh, here's news about the Paldean starters in Pokemon Go. No one cares, okay? No one cares. 18. Chestnut is not a bad design, and I honestly like it more than Delphox. Chestnut is another starter that people hate on. I don't get it. I mean, I get the hate on Quilladin because it's disgusting, but Chestnut is honestly pretty cool. 19. The new Regis, being the ones from Sword and Shield, are honestly cooler than the original trio. 20. HMs are better off forgotten. 21. Honestly, I don't really think they need to add any more types. Like, a lot of people want there to be like a sound or a cosmic or a light type. I just don't think that needs to exist. By this point, I feel like that would really throw off a lot of stuff. And also, there's just so many Pokemon by this point, adding a new type this late in. I feel like it's a little late for that, and there also just doesn't really need to be another type. I mean, they added Stellar, which is hardly even a type because it's only a terrestrial thing, but I don't know. I think we're at a good place where we are. 22. Despite the sudden uprising of nostalgia-fueled praise for the original Black and White, I really don't think they were that special. They weren't bad, but not really top tier either. I mean, Black and White 2 were definitely a lot better. 23. Kalos deserved a new game more than any other region, including Unova, and I know when they announced Legends ZA, no one was really expecting it, but honestly, I kind of was. I kind of figured Kalos needed something the most, because if you think about it, every gen except for X and Y, or every region except Kalos, has had some kind of secondary thing. Kanto has been remade like a million times, Johto had remakes, Hoenn had remakes, Sinnoh had remakes, Unova had sequels, X and Y had nothing. Alola had sequels, Galar had a DLC, and Paldea had a DLC. But X and Y Kalos had nothing. So it's good that they're doing that, honestly, instead of like Legends Kyurem or something of Unova, especially since the Paldea DLC had to do with Unova. 24. From a design perspective, Gen 1 Pokemon cards are honestly just really lame compared to later gens. Like, honestly, the only cool thing about like Wizards of the Coast era Pokemon cards that people love so much is probably just the monetary value and the nostalgia because they're so expensive. I would honestly rather open like an XY era pack than a original base set pack. Even if I'm missing out on a big chance for money, they just don't look cool. They're just lame. You can't get anything actually interesting out of them aside from, oh, it's a lot of money and it's just a boring holo. 25. The art cards in the TCG are honestly becoming way too prevalent. I feel like Pokemon's just gonna run out of content and burn out of this idea really fast by adding so many to every set. Like, if you're not into the Pokemon TCG, they essentially, back in Sword and Shield, they started, actually even like X, Y, and Sun and Moon, they had a few alt arts in some of the sets, but that was only a few. And then in Sword and Shield, they started this thing called the Trainer Gallery, where it was like 20 or so cards added to every set with like special different art variants of certain cards, and they've been continuing that in Scarlet and Violet with just like special illustration cards of cards in the set, but they're just doing so many. I honestly think the sheer quantity and how much they're just overdoing it, it's honestly just getting kind of boring really fast. Like, every time I see new reveals for new cards coming out, I'm just like, okay, cool, I guess. It's just not like novel or interesting anymore of how much they're doing it, and like there's only so many Pokemon, they can't do this forever. They're gonna have to be doing repeats eventually, which they already are for some reason, but you'd never guess that it's Charizard that they made like 10 of already. 26. Mega Mewtwo Y is better than X. That might not even be a hot take. I just feel like most people would probably think X looks cooler, because I guess it objectively does. I just like Y more. 27. The Team Plasma full arts from the Black and White era kind of look dull, in my opinion. Like, a lot of people like them, I just think they kind of look fake, almost. 28. And this kind of expands on what I just said. The new EX cards in the Scarlet and Violet era, they have these weird sparkly star patterns all over it, and I think that just looks really stupid. It also makes them look fake. 29. The Black and White era holo pattern isn't really cool. That's another thing I feel like people really like, because it's like the little lines going across it. I just think that looks kind of dumb, especially compared to some other holo patterns like the Sun and Moon one, where it's like the cool water pattern, or the Cosmos holo with the swirls and stuff. 30. I honestly think Gengar is overrated. Like, among all of the Pokemon that are just like the usual suspects that appear everywhere and get overused, like Charizard and Rayquaza, at least they're like epic dragons, and then Umbreon's like a cool dog, and Pikachu, it's Pikachu. But then Gengar is just kind of like a blob with a goofy face. 31. And this is spoiler warnings for Pokemon Legends Arceus, even though that's like 2 years old now. But anyway, Volo being a bad guy was really not surprising at all. Like, I've seen a lot of reaction videos to him revealing himself as the bad guy and the whole Giratina thing, and all these Pokemon YouTubers and reactors and just the people playing the game, they're like freaking out about it like they never could have guessed. Yeah, I could have guessed. In fact, anyone should have been able to guess that, unless you're like 2 years old. This creepy man just following a kid around suspiciously the whole game, it really was not that hard to just say, oh yeah, this guy's weird, this guy, something's up with him. I wonder where Giratina's been this whole game. I wonder if it has to do with the guy that is literally the ancestor of the final boss from the games this game is based on. Maybe he'll be the final boss here. Oh wait, he is. 32. Some Gigantamax forms are actually pretty cool, like Centiskorch, Lapras, Butterfree, and Urshifu. 33. The Galarian Bird Trio should have just been a continuation of the original 3, instead of regional forms of them, because regional forms of legendaries doesn't really make sense, and also would have been cool to see like a 4, 5, and 6 to go on to the legendary birds. 34. Terrakion and Solgaleo shinies are just eyesores and really bad. I feel like I've seen some people praise them before, especially Terrakion. I just think they look kind of too much, especially Solgaleo. 35. Z-moves were honestly even more lame than Dynamaxing, because at least Dynamaxing gave some unique forms to Pokemon. Z-moves didn't even add a physical change to any Pokemon, it's just a special move. 36. 2D sprites, a lot of people say this, they were like the peak for Pokemon. Much better than 3D, and I agree. However, a lot of people will focus on the Black and White era sprites where it's like 2D but also animated. I honestly like the Gen 3 and 4 ones better, where they just kind of stand still but have like little opening animations. Because honestly, it looks weird when you have a 2D pixel sprite just bending and warping to move around like they do in Gen 5. 37. It actually makes sense for Charizard to be flying type, because there's a lot of other Pokemon that gain wings by evolution of some sort, including like Mega Evolution or something, and when they gain those wings, they also gain the flying type, and that's exactly what happens to Charmeleon and to Charizard. 38. Pikachu, Eevee, and Meowth should not have gotten Gigantamax forms, regardless of their popularity. It just doesn't really make sense, and it would have been cooler and more effective to give them to like Raichu, the Eeveelutions, and Berserker or Persian. 39. Mega Sableye is kind of lame, like probably one of the lamest megas out there. If you think about it, it's literally just regular Sableye, but holding a big rock. 40. Dragonair is better than Dragonite. 41. The gold and silver cartridges look cooler than the translucent crystal one. I feel like I've definitely heard at least once before that Pokemon Crystal probably has the best cartridge out there. I'm just not really a fan of translucent cartridges and like hardware for games. Because, oh look, you can see inside of it. But when you see the inner workings inside of it, it's just kind of like, alright, this is like a lot going on. It would be better if it was just a solid color, because now you can see the stuff peeking through and it creates all these different colors and details that don't go well together, because it's just like a mechanism I'm staring at. 42. The beta Gibble line is honestly cooler than the real Gibble line. 43. Poplio and Brion are kind of overhated. Like, I genuinely think they're good designs, especially Poplio. It gets way too much hate. I hated it at first too, honestly, but like, I've really warmed up to it. I might even like it more than Rowlet by this point. 44. X and Y was the best TCG era. 45. Regular Lucario looks cooler than Mega Lucario. Honestly, Mega Lucario is another one that I'm not the biggest fan of. 46. The Unova monkeys, excluding Simipour, which, yeah, that thing is kind of gross. I honestly think they're all overhated. Like, Simisage is honestly a pretty cool design. 47. Most regional forms are better than the regular ones. The only exception I can think of off the top of my head is Diglett and Dugtrio, because that's awful. 48. Legendaries that you can catch in the post-game or just not in the main game of literally any game should not be as hard to catch as they are. Like in Oraz, when you can go around and catch all the random legendaries, you should be able to catch them fairly easily. Or just any game where you can do that. It should not be that hard. And you might be thinking, oh, well, they're legendaries, of course it's hard. Yeah, but is it fun to do that? Is it intriguing? Is it interesting? No. It is not fun just sitting there, pressing A, mashing A, throwing a million Pokeballs over and over and over, watching it shake 3 times as if it's about to catch, but then it breaks out, just listening to the same thing over and over and doing the same thing over and over for like 30 minutes and you wasted 50 Ultra Balls out of nowhere. It's not cool. 49. Gen 5 probably has the worst overall Pokemon designs, honestly. I feel like that's something that people used to say, but then now if the random, like, oh no, Pokemon Black and White Unova is so good, that is happening lately. They don't say that anymore, but I still think that, honestly. Even though that's kind of like when I got into Pokemon. 50. This is a random one that probably isn't even a hot take because no one even thinks about it, but I just want to put it out there anyway. Charon's name is kind of dumb and doesn't really fit in with the other galactic admins. Like, they are Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, and then Charon is Charon. But what you might not know is that his name in Japanese is Pluto, and I honestly think Pluto sounds a lot more cool, or cooler, than Charon. And you might be wondering then, what is Charon? Well, it's one of Pluto's moons, or something like that, which really just doesn't make sense because, again, the other admins are planets, so why not just make him Pluto to fit in? 51. The Oraz rendition of Team Aqua is probably the best designed evil team. 52. Honchkrow is cooler than Staraptor. 53. Skyforden Shaman is kind of dumb looking. 54. Defense form Deoxys is the coolest Deoxys form. And that's where I stopped. I couldn't think of anything else. I planned on getting this video out this week, as in like a week after the video game hot takes, and I was just trying to get out as many of these as I could in that time frame, and that's all I got, so it's still a decent amount, more than the last one actually, so yeah, we'll end here. If you liked this or made it to this part, consider liking, subscribing, and commenting and all that stuff. Again, don't get pressed about these opinions of mine, they're just opinions. You can have your own if you want.